When you're getting ready in the morning, when you're exercising, or when you just need a little boost. Download Mindset and listen to your favorite motivational speeches while getting ready for the day.
I've never met a person working 2 or 3 jobs that actually was doing better, because all you did was sell more time.
You can have a job, or you can have a career, or you can have a calling. And if you can somehow figure out how to have a calling, you have hit the jackpot.
Entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. It is not, because you're always pushing the envelope.
If I'm not continuously learning, if I'm not just absorbing as much as I can absorb, someone else is going to kick my.
To me, this is not about the semantics. This is about the binary mindset of winning or losing in life.
If you want to start a business, the person who's stopping you is nobody else but you.
You got to get that first customer first. And then when you get that first, what did you learn? Reiterate, get that next customer.
You don't have to have money to make money. What you have to have is belief in yourself.
If you chase wealth, it eludes you. If you chase time, wealth oftentimes is the byproduct of it.
If you understand money, you become financially educated, you're willing to talk about it. Well, now you can be financially stable doing whatever you want.
We choose to believe, listen, adhere to somebody else's opinions, but somebody else's opinion of us doesn't pay our bills. The person who has an opinion about what it is you're doing was most likely never going to become a customer.
Invest in what you understand.
And you can use your money as a tool to buy your time back, or you can use your money as a tool to make you and attract you more money. That's what wealthy people do. And so you want to be able to use money in that way.
No matter how outrageous, there is a way to pull this off. So what would need to be true for this to work? Stop telling me all the things that aren't going to work. Tell me the thing that is going to work.
Go try and accomplish something that's hard. You may win, you may lose, you may succeed, you may fail. I'll tell you what, you'll be better. If you avoid those things that are hard and you sit on your couch and eat Doritos, this is not a good move. Move towards that challenge and go attack it.
That goes down to not us being willing to talk about money. The reason why people are scared to talk about it is because we're insecure about it, and that's because we don't understand how money plays a part in our lives.
Jump and the net will appear.
In those days, there were very few people believing in Alibaba. And the first question I have to Jack is, how come this little boy, born in Hangzhou, grown up in Hangzhou, who is not an engineer, who is not a geek, who had this formidable intuition of what technology will become, has moved from this origin to building what is today one of the most powerful companies in the world.
Jack, you've always said you don't look backwards, you look to the future. But before we get into the next chapter of your extraordinary life, I do want to touch a little bit on what Alibaba did over the last 2 decades. Forbes magazine was the first magazine to do a full cover story on you when you were just getting underway. At the time, you had about 150 on staff. Today, I think it's over 100,000 people are working with Alibaba and its affiliates. And what you have done is extraordinary, because what you achieved there is not just a company's success, but you empowered literally millions of entrepreneurs in China and around the world, including the United States, enabling people to sell business to business, business to consumers, and enabling businesses to get the financing to succeed. What you've done with Alipay is phenomenal in terms of enabling people who couldn't get financial resources to expand. You did it in a way where they didn't have to go to the traditional banking system, which wouldn't have paid attention to them anyway, but you enabled them to get resources and thrive. The data system that you built up enabled you to judge very quickly.
Well, if everybody agrees, then there is no opportunity. When people criticize you, you have to think. And I spend most of my time thinking about the future. I spend most of time listening to the complaints. Because people like me, we don't have money, we don't have technology, we don't have a strong relationship. The only thing we compete with the others is that how we see the future. If I believe the future like this way, and those people believe that way, of course we're different. And when we believe that is the future, we start to do it. We start to spend time, we start to gather people, we start to do little by little. And I think everybody can be successful if you really try hard. I started Alibaba in 1999 in my apartment. I talked to the 18 founders that one of the things we want to prove, if Jack Ma and his team can be successful, 80% of the people in the world, they can be successful because we don't have money, we don't have technology, we don't have almost nothing.
I want to tell the young people, when most people complain, where the opportunity is. People start complaining, some people complain, people start to change themselves, change the others. Where the opportunity is where the complaints are. Where the trouble, where's the opportunity? And I always believe that.
What was your biggest failure in scaling Alibaba, and what did you learn from?
Yeah, well, we faced a lot of challenges, but I'm sure Alibaba is going to facing more challenges. We worry every day. When I was young, when company was young, we thought, well, what if when Alibaba become that big, my life will be easier. Then now the companies the bigger the company, the more problems I have. So while you are still small company, enjoy it. You will never experience the happiness of operating a small company in your life when you get to be too big. You have so much headaches, so many things happening. And people say, Jack, there are a lot of books about you, but there's none of the books I write myself. If there's one book I want to write in the future, it's called Alibaba 1001 Mistakes. We made so many mistakes. We had so many troubles. Believing or not, China built up e-commerce company, built up an internet-related company. No internet connection at that time, no credit cards, no delivery system. So we make problems all the time. It's not easy, but we tell ourselves, we will be successful until we make 10,000 mistakes. We will be successful if we survive in any crisis. So when crisis came, we know it's a challenge. Everybody start to be united. We solve the challenge, then we complain each other. Before we solve the problem of the crisis, we should not complain. So, I have a problem in HR, I have a problem in financing, I have a problem in technology, I have a problem everywhere. Tell me. So that's why I become a mentor in entrepreneurs program in China. A lot of entrepreneurs have questions. When I listen to their questions, I say, oh my God, I have this problem too. So I would say we have gone through almost more than 90% of the problems that any entrepreneurs have met. This is what we feel proud. At the end of the day, I'm going to tell my kids, my grandchildren, it's not the thing we feel proud we made Alibaba. It's so many mistakes that we overcome, so many challenges we experience that make me feel proud. Life is about experience. So when you become an entrepreneur, don't worry about the competitors. Don't worry about the mistakes. Don't worry about the challenges. Go through it. That's the great fun part of your business, of your experience. And then you got a courage, you got a wisdom, you got a team follow you.
What advice would you give to the young generation that follows you?
Well, I follow young generations. I come because there are so many young entrepreneurs. I come because it's the opportunity for small business. There are so many small businesses in Europe, excellent. And there are so many young people around the world and entrepreneurs. But let me share with you my thought. If you're an entrepreneur, if you want to do some business, think about, you should never think about succeed next month. You should never think about succeed next year. If you think about next month you will be successful, easy come, easy go. You will go down very quick. You should think about, is this thing will be good in 10 years? And have a patience. And the second is that get a good team. If somebody in your team is better than you are, follow him. If you think you are better, share with their ideas, your trouble, your thinking. And hardworking. There's no other choices. And look, your eyes, this eye, look at the customers. This eye, look at your team. And talking, share with your team all the thinking you have, making sure we're on the same, right? I hate a lot of people, this eye is US dollar, this is euro, they talk like RMB, you know. Nobody want to work with these people. They only talk about money. They have to tell, what do you want? What we agreed, how we gonna do together. That's all the things. And giving yourself some time. Well, yeah, first, I mean, people say I have different faces. I don't call it different faces. I think in my heart, I'm always curious. I'm curious about a lot of things. And I know when I started Alibaba, I know this is not the thing I want to do in all my life. I want to go back to teaching. So I think life is short. You should experience all kinds of things. I don't want to die in my office. I want to die on the beaches. Right? We work hard and we spend the money, but you spend the money, you should spend the money smart way to empower more people. Why we succeed? Because we're using technology to empower a lot of people, we succeed. If you want to be more successful, empower more people. That's very simple. My advice to every young people. What do you have? What do you want? And what will you give up? If you do not think about these 3 questions every time, you will get lost.
You know, never be so sure of what you want that you wouldn't take something better. What do you really want from the person? What are they like?
You can have what you want, but you have to specify what it is.
Yeah, well, for me, to negotiate is to collaborate and find a better outcome. In the early days, I was always teaching the adversary is not the person on the other side of the table, the adversary is the situation. When I was teaching at USC, I had a female come up to me in a class and she's like, you know, there are a lot of employers out there that want to pay me less because I'm a female. If I got an employer that's paying me less because I'm a female, how do I negotiate a better deal? And I said, all right, so I'm going to answer you as if I was your dad, and you just asked me, hey, the guy I'm in a relationship with treats me badly. How do I get him to treat me better? My answer to you is go someplace else. There are plenty of places you want to be somewhere where they value you. And if their core value is to pay you less based on your agenda, they're going bankrupt anyway. That's a bad strategy. Don't try to fix a bad employer any more than you try to fix a bad significant other. There's somebody out there better for you.
You don't know how much your boss knows about the work you do, especially if you're one of those people who does your work quietly and well and sort of invisibly. And that's even worse if you're agreeable so that other people can take advantage of your work and pretend it's theirs. So the first thing you might want to do is make sure that your boss actually knows what you do without being chest thumping about it. And then you might say what it is that you could offer if you were offered additional opportunity. You have to make a case for what it is that's in it for him too, and also, or her, and also ensure that if he has to go make a case to his superior, that he's completely armed and ready to do that. So there was so you don't assume that you're in an antagonistic relationship with your boss. And if you are, and that's intractable, then, you know, it might be time to think about either a radically new approach to your work or a different job.
You want to be a diamond, we're going to take you there. But you got to want to be a diamond. You got to willing to be doing the work. And you want to coast, you want it to be, something you do when you're not at home. All right, there are jobs out there like that, but it ain't with me. Pressure makes diamonds, you gotta wanna be a diamond. Now, most people think you do one or the other. Hey, how are your kids? Where'd you go to school? What do your kids do? Are your kids in Little League? The small talk that's this common ground thing, which is, it's for C players. Common ground, in my opinion, was designed initially like, if we got similar common ground, then ideally you understand where I'm coming from. But in point of fact, it's highly inefficient. Look at your siblings. How much more common ground could you possibly have than with the people you grew up with? Talk about common ground in geography, ethnicity, diet, religion, as much as possible. And how many family gatherings around holidays or screaming matches? That's what common ground will get you. But what people really want to know is, do you understand what my problems are? Do you understand my perspective? Do you understand where I'm coming from? So if I dial in to start out understanding and feel you out, and I'm going to say, seems like this whole process has frustrated you. Seems like there's a reason that you're struggling with this. I'm taking emotionally intelligent, educated guesses, and I'm listening. Now that gets me into an information gathering process and relationship building process simultaneously, instead of one and then the other, which is highly inefficient, which is why this indirect route ends up being much faster. I'll look at you and I say, look, it seems like you're having a good day. If you look like you're having a good day, I don't ask people how they are. I make a guess as to how they are based on what I'm seeing, because that tells them right away, I'm dialing into you. Our capacity to hear words exceeds the amount of information we can keep in our head, but the amount of information in your tone of voice is going to tell me more than the words are. So how I learned to listen was, the words are the starting point, but the tone of voice and the body language, and what's the alignment? And then if there's a shift in the alignment in that moment, to look for it and then anticipate. I know now that you as a human being, you in general terms, the negativity is going to cloud your thinking more than anything else. So I'm listening for those negatives. And from the hotline, and now what we do in a Black Swan method, how do I deactivate those negatives to clear your head or even anticipate them? So it's applied emotional intelligence. And then why listen? Because what we would call in hostage negotiation a change of behavior, and in business negotiation or personal interactions, you changing your mind as to the best outcome is going to come much more quickly and effectively and in a lasting way than if I talked you into it or if I misled you. I want whatever agreement we come to be durable, to last, without me having to come back to you daily to see where we are. And that's what listening is really about, understanding the nuances of what's now backed up by neuroscience and what people in hostage negotiation and you as a practitioner in the field of human nature for years came to learn was the reality of how human beings think and how they react. You're anticipating, you're paying really close attention, you're understanding how the person is wired, and you're understanding what sort of neurochemical changes take place when you feel understood. I stand up in front of a group of business people on a regular basis, and I'll say to them, how much time do you have for somebody who's not listening to you? And they don't have any time for it. Now, they'll test them a little bit, they'll interact shortly, but somebody's only pitching or somebody's only got answers. It doesn't even matter how good those answers are, because if somebody's not listening, at some point in time, they're going to need an adjustment. And if they're not listening, they're not going to make that adjustment. Salesperson, counterpart of any kind, you come up to me with the perfect answer. Maybe you got 4 perfect answers. you're most interested in giving me your answers as opposed to hearing me out first, I know at some point in time you're not going to have a perfect answer. And if you haven't been listening, you're not going to catch it, and we're going to have some real problems. So you start showing how you listen intermittently, proactively, then it's really going to accelerate our conversation. And I know that when there's a problem, you're going to catch it, instead of me having to come back to you after the problems become very damaging. It's about anticipating and staying ahead of the game. Like any other relationship, like a personal relationship, business relationship, close relationship, significant other, you got to get a fit. And my favorite question actually is to ask in job interviews, every job interview and every annual review. Taught to me by a friend of mine who's Tom McCabe, extraordinarily successful guy, CEO of an international bank. We talked about this extensively. We went to high school together. His question is, how can I be guaranteed to be involved in projects that are critical to the strategic future of this organization? And I said before, the calibrated question is designed to trigger thought. That question immediately changes their perspective of you when you ask it. Like, you're telling them, look, I want to advance everybody's life here. I want to play in a big game. I want to be with the people that are at the highest levels of performance in your company, and I want to move everybody forward with that one question. And it completely changes the outcome, because then it's not just what your skill set is for this particular job. Maybe they got a job for you in a mailroom, but you want to be the head of the division, and you want to know how to get there, and you want to get there by succeeding and taking everybody with you. Now that's a game-changing conversation. That's a completely different conversation. Maybe they thought they were bringing somebody in to push a mail cart around, and now you're somebody that says, yeah, not only will I do the little jobs to learn this from the bottom up, but I want to make everybody's life better. I want to help everybody succeed. Now I'm willing to learn. I'm coachable. Now it's a different conversation. One of the things that I loved, that I learned from being a hostage negotiator, is how to negotiate without a net. And my Harvard brothers and sisters would call that bat now. What's the best alternative to negotiated agreement? And that's so that you release yourself of fears, that you don't take yourself hostage. You can go in with no alternative and have enough faith in a process to just be engaged, to be curious, to listen, to discover the better outcome. And so the bad idea or the alternatives idea is a good starting point if you feel like you're taking yourself hostage. But what it really is it's to create this psychological construct so that you don't freeze up, so that you don't take yourself hostage. And as hostage negotiators, we just never, theoretically, we never had a bad day. You got to make the deal. You got to work it out. And you kind of get used to walking that tightrope without a net, and then it's no big deal. But the principle to begin with is how to not take yourself hostage. And that's a brilliant principle to start with.
And people are scared of this partly because they don't want to reveal to themselves what they actually want, because they might betray themselves or be betrayed by the world. And partly because they're afraid of the responsibility and they don't have enough faith. But it's impossible to hit a target that you don't aim at. Work through the blind spots in their vision, let's say, and the knots in their life that might be interfering with their desire to be a diamond, because people will also misconstrue that. They'll think, well, I don't want to work too hard. It's like, you're not thinking about the work properly if that's your attitude. Because first of all, if you love what you're doing, you might really want to work hard. And if you don't love it, that means you don't really see the point. You don't see the end goal. You don't see the value in it. And then, maybe you do see the value, but you're lazy and undisciplined. And maybe you have your rationales for that too. And so all that needs to be worked through. Because I do think that, first of all, most of the meaning in people's lives comes from the adoption of voluntary responsibility. And most people do actually want to be diamonds, but they're afraid of the work, and they're also afraid that it's going to be imposed on them, right? And they're going to be forced into it. And they don't have a vision of their own. And so one of the things that everyone who's listening and watching might want to understand is that before you go into a job interview, you might want to have done some serious thinking about just exactly why it is that you want this job. And if the answer is, well, I need to pay next month's rent, fair enough, but that is not a good enough reason. That's not a vision for your life. And that's not the sort of vision that's going to make you a compelling interviewee, because you're shallow, right? You haven't thought through why it is that you're going to do what you're doing.
You hear all these, I'd say fake entrepreneurs or fake coaches. They don't actually have any real businesses. They're like, you got to 10x today and you got to 5x. If you're not 5xing, you're failing. And the reality is when you set less ambitious goals for yourself, you can stick with them for longer because you're not burnt out, you're not tired. You can sustain. And that gives you the ability to create 10x opportunities because you're like, okay, cool, I'm not worried about making money in that, but I can go do things that potentially, be moonshots and really drive the company for the future.
Find someone who sits in a position that you want to be in. The fastest way to get to where you want to be, find someone that's already there and ask them for help. You would be amazed how many older, successful people want to help. So don't talk yourself out of asking for help. But also, one of my favorite ones is show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I see so many people surrounding themselves. See, your frequency is your neighborhood. And let me explain what that means is your frequency is created by your neighbors. And if you're sitting in the projects on a lawn chair drinking a Colt 45, you may have all the skills in the world, all the knowledge in the world, all the desire in the world. And when you turn to your buddy on the lawn chair drinking and you say, hey, can you help me? How many options, opportunities, and touches of favor do you think someone in your neighborhood is going to be able to give you? I'm telling you, frequency and vibration wise, surround yourself with the right people and the right ideas. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. Surround yourself with people that are going to give you more options, more opportunities, and more touches of favor. Surround yourself with people that feed you. So many people are being bled. 80% of their time is around people that make them feel like crap. They're watching things that make them feel like crap. They're listening things that make them feel like crap. They're surrounding themselves with people that make themselves feel with crap. They're being bled all day long and wonder why they feel bled.
Well, it's never too late. It's better to start earlier on in life. The earlier you figure it out, the better off you are. But it can happen later in life. Now, I figured out at an early age that I wanted to write. I didn't know what I wanted to write, but I loved words and I loved writing. And if I didn't have that connection when I was 8 years old, all the way into high school and college, I would have been a lost soul. And I empathize with a lot of people who don't have that feeling when they're 8 or 18 or in their 20s. But I'm trying to tell people everybody has it. You're just not listening to yourself. You've lost touch with who you are, the core of your being. You're on social media too much. You're listening to what other people are telling you. You're listening to what your parents told you should be doing in life. You're listening to what your friends think is cool. You're listening to what the culture is all about, the entertainment industry, etc. You got to cut all that out. You got to listen to yourself. And you got to be a bit bold. And you have to embrace what makes you different. What makes you different, what makes you particularly strange, if you want to use another word, is your strength, is your source of power. You've lost touch with it. Let's go back and try and find it. And that's the whole problem. How do you find it? Well, it's a process. It takes time. To do anything in life takes time and hours and patience and work. I recommend starting a journal and such and writing down some of the things that I think are important to you. So I like to tell people to go back to their earliest childhood memories of things that really excited them before they got mixed up with parents and teachers and all that, other people telling them stuff, If you are somebody who's word-oriented and you end up going into a field that's about math or about numbers, you're in for a lot of pain in life, right? So you've got to figure that kind of what I call primal connection to some kind of field. You have to look at the things that you love and the things that you hate.
A lot of people are chasing content creation, or they were chasing crypto last week, or they were chasing blogging years ago, and now AI everyone's chasing. And so what I'd recommend for other people out there, and I've been able to do this literally, and I've chosen so many $1 trillion markets to be around, and a lot of my success is just because I'm in the market, and in the market as well. But I'm curious about these things, number one. So I was curious about social networking, and I was like, oh, that's big. Because I got onto it and I was able to see wow, you can connect with the entire world, even though there wasn't really the entire world at that point. So curious, same with mint.com. I was like, man, money, I think worldwide it's pretty important. I think there's going to be something, if you have a free money tool, that's going to be big. Same thing then with Facebook games, that was going to be big. Then I did payments for games, that was big. And then I did kind of a Groupon business, which became AppSumo, that was big. Then we built SumoMe.com, that was big, which is a software tool. So ideally, number one, you're curious. So I can talk about my crypto thing because I think that's kind of an interesting example of it. Number two, how do you get a part of it today, right now, not how? Don't worry that you don't have a website, don't worry you don't have a big social media presence, but what can you take action on to put yourself in that space? So can you be in a community online? Can you geographically move? Can you start creating in that space? So I think people are curious maybe, and they can find it, but they don't necessarily try it and understand it, and they don't do anything about it. So even with crypto, got involved, I heard about it in 2012, didn't do anything, I thought it was stupid. And then in 2016, I had to buy an illegal NFL stream. That's how I got into crypto. And so I bought this illegal NFL stream on a website, seasonsforyou.com, and I saw the power of what this could be. And then I started buying at that point. And that's where it's now become a multi-million-dollar portfolio. And I think the biggest thing for everyone out there is, what are you doing on your phone all day? There's probably something within there that's $1 billion opportunity. Same thing on what you're doing outside, same thing what you're watching on content, and just being a little bit more curious and then taking action around that.
Yeah, more of those CEOs would respond to you than they would today. When you're young, because they were young and they know how important, they know that they would not be where they're at if they didn't have someone elevate them, and they wouldn't be where they're at unless they're elevating others. You need to elevate others to elevate yourself, but also you need others to elevate you to elevate you. It's amazing, and everyone, they get fooled by the closed mind. I tell people, life is so simple today because of the size, scope, and scale of access that we have. We don't have to write. You can DM them, you can email them, you can call them. This wasn't available when we were working for the Oilers or wherever. And why is that important? Because I teach kids, especially, just look for the open mind. How do you find an open mind? Smile at someone. If they smile back, they have an open mind. Tell them you like their clothes. Tell a woman you like their purse or their shoes. If they smile, they have an open mind. It takes 1,000 times the effort to convert or to transition or re-engineer a closed mind than an open mind. And remember this, everybody has an open mind some of the time. Some people, almost all the time. Some people, almost never. But if you catch someone who has a closed mind when it's open, it's really valuable. So qualify people by open minds. They have open hearts and open hands. And guess what? They surround themselves with people with open hearts, open hands, and open minds, which allows you to create two types of people in your neighborhood. People who help you and people that know someone that can help you. Nothing can help you more.
Think about in your own life and your own businesses, like what is the thing you're looking forward to and excited about? And it could even be small. Like one of my phrases I like is put it on the calendar. What's on the calendar? What are you looking forward to?
The vision, right? And so for your vision, we said we want to build a great sustaining company into the 21st century because we had just sold Razzler, and we actually kind of wanted to keep it going. They just made us an offer we couldn't refuse. We owed that to the shareholders. And then the mission is all about leadership, because the object of the game, particularly in Silicon Valley, is to be the category king. Because when you're the category king, you get 80% of the industry resources and 80% of market cap. So our mission was to create a category called business-to-business electronic commerce and to be the leader. And then the next thing under that is your values. So, right, integrity's there, courage, high ambition, accountability, respect, the basics. And then we had a set of team rules that kind of personify those values. And by the way, same team rules for all the companies. The first one is direct, open, and honest communication. In a word, the truth. Because I had seen General Motors, when you go through 15 levels, you know, I started at the lowest of the low, production floor, to the highest of the high, where I was a staff for the board of directors. I could see how that message would change, right? The second one is no idea is a bad idea. And then we added parentheses, unless the CEOs. So, because it's all about making a safe environment.
Sure.
And you can make a safe environment when you mock out the CEO. Plus it's fun. The third one is always raise the standard in everything we do, in our people, our processes, and our products. And if somebody can't keep up with that standard, you got to do something about it. Otherwise, you've automatically lowered your standard. Then the fourth one is we're a team first and functional specialist second. So you developers put your feet in a customer's shoes. You sales guys don't make commitments we can't keep. And then the fifth one is the most powerful one of all. And that is hire the best people, especially if they're better than us.
For 20 years, I was just so obsessed with creating money and getting money. And I was not really obsessed at all in enjoying life and enjoying the money. And that's something when COVID happened that 180'd my life. And I'm grateful for it. It was definitely unfortunate for a lot of people. I was just grateful that it brought up, okay, well, if this is not forever, how do we enjoy this life? And so a lot of my learnings and what I do in our channel is to inspire people to be able to do their own things in business journey. And that doesn't mean to be a millionaire. I will say with 100% certainty, being a millionaire is awesome. The ability to go to the grocery store and you're like, just give me the things I want, go to the supermarket and not worry paycheck to paycheck, not worry about it. Like, I actually instill more like, okay, I should wait more to buy things. Let's delay that gratification instead of just getting everything I want. When I go to these billionaires, one of my favorite questions is, how do you enjoy money, but what do you regret about the money? And almost all of them, they will say they're either saying it or what they're actually saying is they regret not spending more time with their family. And only a very few were able to balance that. And that's something that stuck with me, where it's the reason I left San Francisco. I didn't want to talk about funding and employees and how big your company is. I don't care. I really, what I'm interested in is like, how good is your life? Like, how are you with yourself? Not even necessarily you have to be this donor person. I think that's one way of a great life. How are you to your partner? How are you to your parents? How are you to your friends? How are you to the people you work with? And I think money is very sensitive, and I think we're taught a lot about how to create it, but definitely there's much more there as well, how to enjoy it and different things that people enjoy. Like, I enjoy watches and bicycles, and I enjoy having a nice house. I never did any of these things before because I was like, I should just keep saving and saving and saving. And with COVID, I was like, maybe let me enjoy a little bit in the areas I'm spending a lot of time. And those are the areas. And then watches was also just, how can I represent pride in myself? Like what I've accomplished in different areas. So, me and my partner are pregnant. She's pregnant. I did the easy work. And so I got a Rolex with me and two other buddies. I bought 3 Rolexes, Pepsis to honor that. And that's super cool that I can do that for us and for them. And money enables that. Would I be just as happy without it? Yeah. But I would say having money to be able to have a nicer house, be able to have a house, live in Spain without worrying about the money and these types of things, it makes life so much easier.
Went from owning 33 homes in San Diego alone to a rented house, rented furniture, a pregnant wife with 3 daughters under 10. What am I gonna do? And I gotta tell my mom she's moving. I have really messed this up. And in some respects, I was more equipped, but in others, it was like, okay, I already got the lessons, why are you punishing me? And when I laid there in bed that day of filing bankruptcy and keeping it secret, because I wasn't the person that I am today, I illuminate I am who I am. You're either gonna love me for who I am, but you're not gonna love me for who I'm not. Right? You can hate me for who I am, but you're not gonna love me for who I'm not. I'm gonna tell you the truth and illuminate to the best of my ability, spend minutes and moments outside of the truth, minutes and moments in ego-based consciousness. That's the secret sauce of what I do. But when I lied there in bed, it was another coincidence because tears were rolling down my face. I could not lift up my arms, right? It's harder almost because I knew the lessons. It wasn't like I was in that ignorant arrogance where I was in blame, shame, and justification. I was lying there being accountable, and that's hard. And at that time, accountability still was tied to what did I do to attract this to myself? What am I supposed to learn? It's evolved to what did I do to participate in it or the perception of it and what am I supposed to learn? But I remember, I wanted to get up. TV was on, almost like The Jacket. One of my favorite movies is Rocky. And so I'm lying there, completely crushed. And I turn it on and there's Rocky 1. The end of the movie's on, and it's that scene, the music's going, I'm crying, and Apollo Creed is just beating Rocky. And I don't know if you remember the scene, he's hanging, and then he gets to the ground, and Adrian's in the back, and he's sitting there, and he couldn't get up. 6, right? And Mickey's like, stay down, right? And everyone else, get up, and Rocky, and I'm sitting there, I'm down, and I'm watching him, and he looks up. I see it. He looks up. Somehow, the music going, and he gets back up, right? And then he pops Apollo in the ribs, and that round ends, the second to the last round. And the movie continues on to 8 more movies or whatever. I think to myself, what if he didn't get up? What if that movie ended that he was just crushed? He had learned all the lessons. Remember, he went through all the different lessons in the movie that made us root for him, love him. But that one moment of bankruptcy, he had a decision to make. If I can look up beyond everybody else, I'm gonna get up. And because he got up, we all know what happened in the other 8 movies. I wanted to see what was gonna happen in the other 8 movies for me.
Some people live check to check. Some people live decade to decade. Where do you want to be 10 years from now? Who do you want to be 10 years from now? Some of you have not even scratched the surface of possibilities. Some of you guys have hit cruise control. Some of you guys have relaxed. And here's why. You think you a baller shot caller because you're making some money. But you're doing 1 million, 1.5 million. And you think that you've built some kind of empire. The truth is, you don't have an empire. You're just making money and you can take care of your family and your mom. And you call that an empire. I understand, if I want to be elite, I need to get around elite people. If I want to be a billionaire, I need to get around billionaires. My neighborhood has 6 billionaires and I get to have cocktails with them. We have 6 billionaires and I get to go to happy hour with them. Here's the truth. I'm not trying to live day to day anymore because I've been broke. I'm not trying to live check to check anymore because I have been busted. When I made up my mind to become more powerful, my whole world changed. And I began to live decade to decade. That likable people make a whole lot of money. Can I ask you a question? Are you likable? Let me prove it to you. Have you ever thought about how Oprah became a billionaire? Oprah got on TV as a journalist, but she got into the people business and she convinced 30 million women she was their best friend. Oprah is a likability pimp. Oprah converted likability into billions of dollars. But you better take some notes. Because the worst thing you can do is relax. The worst thing you can do is take it easy, because empires, if you're not careful, will come to an end. Empires, if you're not careful, can crash and burn any moment. If you don't believe me, ask Kanye West. If you don't believe me, ask Kyrie Irving. I need you to lock in tonight. I need you to focus on my message today, because your empire should grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. You almost got your money's worth already. Because I want you to get out of the plumbing business, the painting business. I want you to get out the pool cleaning business, and I want you to get into the people business. Does that make sense? Because who are your customers, people? Who are these employees, people? Who's sitting next to you? A person. That's the most powerful coaching lesson I can give you right now. You gotta get into the people business. And if you're gonna be in the people business, you need to learn how to manage people. If you agree with me, say yes. If you need to get better at it, say yes. You can be wealthy if you get really good with people. If you agree with me one more time, just raise your hand and with some attitude at the top of your lungs, say yes. It is impossible to reach your potential without a coach. I mean, you ever thought about sports? Every great player is connected to a great coach. I mean, think about that. We talk about Tom Brady, but we got to talk about Bill Belichick. I add value to you, and you add value to me. I add value to you, and you add value to me. Here's the problem that most of you have right now. You're trying to do it all on your own. Why? Because you're smart. Why? Because I want to show people how smart I am. Well, if you're that smart, you understand the power of coaching. I mean, didn't Michael Jordan have a coach? I mean, his name was Phil Jackson. Remember earlier in his career, they called him selfish, self-centered? And they called Michael Jordan a showboat. And a young coach named Phil Jackson simply said, give him to me. I add value to you, and you add value to me. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. You guys seen the video. He looked goofy at the combine. And Bill Belichick said, give him to me. I add value to you, and you will add value to me. The greatest golfer of all time was well on his way to becoming the greatest golfer of all time, but he had a problem. He violated the formula. His number one coach, and this was not his fault, was his father, and his father passed away. And then he fired his golf coach, Butch Harmon. And to this day, Tiger Woods has not gotten back on track. You're back where you started for one reason. You tried to do it on your own. You tried to do it by yourself. Some people brighten up a room when they enter. Some people brighten up a room when they leave. Raise your hand if you know any jerks. Raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand, raise your hand. Can I ask you a question? What benefit is it for you to be a freaking jerk? Oh, you need some coaching, you freaking jerk. You are hurting yourself, you freaking jerk. Let me prove this point even further. Have you ever wondered how Charles Barkley can say anything out of his mouth and get away with it? I heard him on national TV say Shaq ought to come over there and smack the black off you. And we laughed. He got away with it. Why? Because we like him. Man, I love Barkley. That's just Charles being Charles Barkley. Is in the people business. Before you go to bed, cut on your TV, any station, and before you fall asleep, you're gonna hear and see Shaquille O'Neal's face, and you're gonna hear his voice. Why? Because we don't like Shaq. We love him. Can I ask you a question? Are you likable?
If you can't even go look in the mirror and be happy about what you see, good luck starting anything.
I feel like building a business, especially in the very beginning, is like putting a puzzle together, right? For me, when I'm building a business, especially in the very beginning, I didn't have the blueprint. I didn't have the entire roadmap. I had no idea what it looks like, honestly. But I just stayed really focused on what is the next step you need to achieve to get yourself to that next step.
Am I having joy in doing this activity that is consistent with my purpose? And if that joy is there, then I feel uplifted. And it doesn't matter if I'm getting paid or not paid or whatever. It's just that I feel that spirit. I feel that breath of life come into my lungs. It uplifts me. I'm ready to do this work.
When somebody else says jump, if they're in an authoritative position, you jump. And I've always been like that. Like, I'm a very firm believer in I am a leader, But at the same time, if I sit down and you know more than me, I'm gonna shut the listen. And that's why I've been able to like project my life forward.
I feel like sometimes we can get overwhelmed when we're like, I don't know the whole picture, I don't have the whole plan. I've always entered a project or a business without having the whole plan. And I think that's really key to getting started and really key to figuring things out. So just like a puzzle, like I would just look for like that next puzzle piece that I needed to just capture and lay down. And once I picked it up and I laid it down, I connected it to what I was doing, and I figured out what the next piece of the puzzle I needed was, then I would move on to the next piece, right?
Don't listen to people that are not where you want to be. And it's a very like basic, simple breakdown, like a basic, simple question. But the reason why I love that piece of advice so much is because, and I always like bringing it back to this, let's take school, for example. In the most raw way possible, if you go into an entrepreneurship class in college, you're an idiot. Because that person is not an entrepreneur and they have no idea what the they're talking about. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. You got people teaching business and how to start and run your own business that are teachers and failed at everything they've done. And no hate on them, like, dope, you're teaching. I love teaching, it's what I do, I'm a coach. But why are you listening to people that are not doing what you want to do? I'm not gonna listen to somebody how to fix my car when they don't even own a car and have never worked on one in their entire life. Like, it's just a simple breakdown that I feel like a lot of people can try to attack from different angles, but the truth is the truth, and that's just how it is.
So when I take a look at all these different types of systems, and I look at the leaders and say, well, what differentiates the best leader? And it has something to do with this spirit, passion for something they hold deeply at and consciously at bay. Who they are and why are they in the world becomes very important to them. The leader part is that they're able to bring out those characteristics in others, that consciousness in others. They don't do it by cajoling or by manipulation. That can be done. It can be done for a short term, but it's not a long-term measure. But they actually help people in the discovery, if they're not already awake to who they are, they help them become awake to why they're in this business or organization. And together that they start to move aggressively towards a vision. That's what differentiates teams, and that's where work spirit comes into play. That spirit of purpose, and it's enunciated, they know what it is, and they speak directly to it.
So as soon as I was like, quote unquote, off the clock at 5 p.m. at my daytime job or whatever, I'd go straight into developing my creative projects. I really treated my creative career during those years as like my second job, just as if anyone would have like a double shift, right? And doing that for a few years really helped me feel comfortable eventually quitting my day job and then moving to New York and then kind of like hitting the ground running with all my creative energy, right? So yeah, I definitely, I remember when I was doing like so many different things at once. And I think for people who, you know, want to have a creative side hustle or they want to transition from like their day job to like a full-time creative career, just having the discipline to building out like what does that transitional period look like? Because for me, you know, unless you have like, you know, a nice chunk of money where you can just transition easily, like I didn't have that. I was like saving up and working this second job creatively to build my creative career so that I could slowly transition.
Look at your surroundings. Your surroundings will make and break everything. Like Dan Pena says the breakdown, like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It is like the most real quote in the world. I cut out drugs and alcohol because I stopped hanging out with the people that were feeding me drugs and alcohol. And it's not their fault that I became an addict, it was my own. And I'm very self-responsible in that aspect. I'm the one who picked up the pills, I'm the one who like drank the bottles every goddamn night. It's not their fault that happened, it was me. But I wasn't able to get out of that life until I stopped hanging out with the losers that only wanted to do that.
I feel like I was rushing a lot in my 20s, like rushing to make it or like rushing to prove something of myself or rushing to have something to show for myself, right? So if I could, a piece of advice I give my 20-year-old self is don't be in a rush, you know, enjoy the journey, enjoy the process, enjoy everything you're going through because it goes by really quickly, right? And and then it gets a lot harder. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Don't be in a rush.
Be appreciative that you've learned how to manage yourself, then move towards leading yourself. And in leading yourself is understanding and starting to do the deep inquiry that you'll do for life. Why am I here on earth? For what purpose? And then to establish a vision, probably as a 20-year-old, it's probably 25, 5 years out. Where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing, being with, learned, knowing, all those areas, and then what values do I want to operate within? So it's really developing that vision, value, and purpose for myself. And then once I have that, then I'd say the last step is start to identify people that I align with on purpose at different levels and start to move with them into the world.
When I look at everyday life, when I look at the world, when I look at achieving something, it doesn't make sense to me to just work, to drink, to sleep, to work, to watch TV, to drink, to sleep. What the f are we doing?